Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Oregon Sea Grant's Careers in Science Investigation webinar series. So today is our first webinar where we'll have the opportunity to talk to two of our marine researchers. My name is Tracy Crews, and I manage the marine education programs for Oregon Sea Grant at Oregon State University's Hatfield Marine Science Center, which unfortunately is closed right now. But in the interim, we are trying to bring you some exciting marine education opportunities. So today's webinar, you will have the opportunity to type questions in the question and answer, the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. So as we go along, if you have any questions for either of our presenters, please type them into the question and answer box. And after each presenter, we will take a few minutes to answer questions. So we also have a poll that we're going to share with you now just to learn a little bit about you and who's participating in today's webinar. Kate Goodwin is our Special Projects Coordinator, and she is sharing right now the first question of the poll, which says, what grade are you in? Please take a few moments just to click on the poll and let us know. Okay, hopefully everybody's had a chance to answer that question. Kate, can you share with us the results? All right, so it looks like 11% are from elementary school, 67% from middle school, 17% from high school, and 6% are adults. Awesome, so our next question that we're gonna ask is just where are you joining us from? So if you take a minute to answer the second question, which hopefully Kate will be sharing with you shortly. There we go. So are you from Oregon, the West Coast, Central United States, the East Coast, or outside of the United States? All right, Kate, what were our results for that one? Oh, it looks like 74%. So most folks are from Oregon, although we have a few from the West Coast, a couple from Central United States as well. Awesome. So our first speaker today is going to be Kristin Beem. And Kristin is a marine technician with Oregon State University. And she's going to tell you a little bit about what her job entails, how she got where she is, and some of the really cool, exciting things she gets to do as part of her job.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristin. Tracy, do you want me to go ahead and start sharing my screen? All right, let's go. Share screen. Yes. From beginning. All right, can I get a thumbs up from Tracy if everything looks great? All right. All right, thank you, everyone. Thanks for the introduction, Tracy, and for letting me be here today. My name is Kristin Beem, and I am a marine technician, which is a very broad category and very kind of obscure. So I look forward to going ahead and talking to you guys about what it is I do. So I have a couple questions for you guys at home, nothing to poll about, but just to kind of ponder, or maybe you can raise your hands at home. Of the audience, who wants to be a marine biologist? Who wants to be a network administrator or IT specialist? Who wants to be a carpenter or mechanic? Who wants to be a teacher? Who wants to live on a ship? And I bet I can get everyone to raise their hand with this one. Who wants to go on vacation and travel a lot? Bet I got most of you on that one. So, oh, hold on. Advanced, next slide. There we go. You can actually be all of these as a marine technician. This photo was when I was up in the Arctic back in 2017. We got a little bit of sea ice that year, and you can see there's walruses down there on the right too. Pretty magical, and I'm really lucky that I have this kind of job where I can do a lot of traveling and see a lot of places where other people don't actually see them. So what is it that I do as a marine technician? I wear a lot of different hats. The first one being an event planner, organizer, liaison. So I do a lot of communications and pre-cruise planning with the captain of the ship as well as the chief scientist. So we get scientists from all over the US and even from other countries coming onto our ship, which is mostly the Oceanus. And so we kind of have to do a lot of pre-cruise planning, figuring out what their science objectives are, and kind of plan that. I also am a deck supervisor, so rigging different oceanographic instruments that come on board. Like we have a CTD that measures different water quality parameters like conductivity, temperature, and actually the depth. We also get plankton nets that come on board and deep sea sediment coring. So each cruise is a little bit different. So kind of rigging them up and using cranes and winches is sometimes a little challenging, but really fun. IT and network specialist. So we do have internet while we're at sea. It is very slow, not what like you're used to on land, but keeping that satellite internet up and doing a lot of data acquisition and as a sensor tech. So we have instruments that actually measure not only the atmosphere, but also the ocean while we're out there. So taking care of those sensors, making sure we're getting good data is really important and part of my job. Electronics technician. So unfortunately, some of those sensors will go out, or wires will stop working, things will stop communicating. So it's a lot of troubleshooting, and I get to use a multimeter a lot. And then oceanographer as well. So we have a lot of really cool cutting edge technology, including different sonars that can ping the bottom of the ocean, kind of map it, like you see those really cool maps of the seafloor. We can also use the different sonars to see where the currents are going underneath the ocean. And then QA, QC data. That's really important to make sure that we have good quality data. So I know that's a lot of jargon, so you might be asking, Kristin, what do you really do as a marine technician? And honestly, I talk to people a lot. As you can tell, I really enjoy talking to people. I get to take science gear in and out of the water using cranes and winches. So when you guys see construction sites and people building other buildings using cranes and really cool hydraulics and different gadgets, I get to do that, but out at sea. Working on computers. I know that a lot of people don't really take laptops and computers out on their small boats, but we have a little bit bigger ships, and we have, racks full of servers and computer networking instruments. So it's a little challenging, but really fun. Constantly learning new things. Contrary to people's belief that come and sail with me, I don't know everything. I read a lot of manuals, and it's really fun. I always learn something new. And then I also like to brag that I get to do the fun aspects of science. So there's a lot of researchers that, most of their days are spent kind of prepping for the field season and getting everything ready, and then going to do field work. And then they take all that data and analyze it and write up the reports and publish their data. And then they go back out in the field and kind of do it all again. I like to think that I get to just do all the fun bits. So I just get to see the scientists when they're out at sea collecting data. So I get to do fun aspects of science. And you can see in these couple different pictures, I think all of these are from when I was on the Oceanus. That top one is my coworker Brandon. We're bringing a jumbo piston core back on the ship. So really deep sediment cores and really long. And so scientists can actually look at the different layers and kind of go back in history, sort of like you would with coring a tree or something similar. Yeah, more coring in the bottom left, and then it kind of looks like we're standing around, but I promise we're doing science in the rest of those. So these are the two ships that I mainly sail on. The RV Oceanus is on that top picture. So it's owned by the National Science Foundation, which actually provides a lot of our funding. And then it's operated by Oregon State University. So all of the crew, as well as the marine technician, are all employed by Oregon State University. The home port is here in Newport, Oregon, so really close. I'm sure you guys have seen it. Built in 1975, a little bit of an older ship. We're actually going to be getting a new ship in the next couple of years, which is very exciting, the RV Ta'ani. Holds about 13 scientists and 12 crew members, and we can sail for about 30 days at a time without coming back into port to refuel for food or fuel. So that's quite a long time. Most of my cruises on that ship, I would say, are probably about 2 weeks long, although I have been on a couple that were 30 days. The U.S. Coast Guard cutter Healy is that bottom picture. It's the U.S.'s largest and most technologically advanced icebreaker, as well as U.S. Coast Guard's largest vessel. The home port, she's up in Seattle, Washington most of the year, except for during the summer, when she is up in the Arctic. Built in 1999, length 420 feet long, and although it is a Coast Guard ship, and so there's 85 Coast Guard crew members, they actually bring on about 51 scientists for science missions. And those scientists are actually up there to study the Arctic. And so we kind of are brought on as contractors to help, build that liaison kind of communication aspect, as well as work with the sonars and the sensors. And that ship can sail up to 60 to 90 days at a time. My cruise, I've been up into the Arctic 3 times now, and each one of those were about 30 days. But these aren't the only ships that do research. The UNOLS, or University National Oceanographic Laboratory System, is a whole bunch of research vessels that are all over the US, and we kind of have this community where we share knowledge and safety standards and a lot of different resources. So there's about 18 ships in total. I'm just showing a couple of them, but I wanted to kind of let you guys know that there's research being done all over the place. So traveling, these are the places that I've worked since February 2017. So yes, I get paid to travel a lot. Dutch Harbor, Kodiak, you can kind of see the list go on. So I sail about 120 days a year and travel another 30 days for training conferences, which is actually quite a bit. So when people ask me if I get seasick, I don't get seasick. I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I get to travel quite a bit. Checking up here in the Q&A, do I have a favorite research vessel? Ooh, I would have to say the Oceanus, just because she was the first ship that I sailed on, and she rides really nicely. And just the crew and the people. I mean, I'm a little bit biased. I'm sure everyone would say their normal research vessel is their favorite. All right, next slide. So what is your path to becoming a marine technician? Everyone's path is a little bit different from the conversations that I've had with a lot of different marine technicians that work on other ships. So this is just mine. I graduated actually from Oregon State University back in 2014 with a bachelor's in biology with a marine biology emphasis. I then did a lot of different internships. The first one was at Crater Lake National Park as an intern, which was really great, doing a lot of limnology, small boat work, scuba diving, really fun. Then I went to a Coral Restoration Foundation down in Key Largo for a couple months and did a lot of outplanting corals and scuba diving and working with the public. I then went back to Crater Lake. There's me and Scott, my boss, diving right next to Phantom Ship. So went back there, this time actually as a National Park Service employee. Then I went and got a job in the National Park of American Samoa down in the South Pacific and eradicated some crown of thorns sea stars. I went back to Crater Lake because I love it. And then I volunteered at the Oregon Coast Aquarium / was unemployed for the winter of 2017. before I got my job with Oregon State University as a marine technician. So there's a couple of pictures there. It's really fun. It's really dynamic. I've really enjoyed it. So I think that's my presentation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll go ahead and open it up to questions. There's also some additional resources there, as well as that marine technician internship. So there is an internship that is kind of funnels people into this in this job. So it's really fun. It's really enjoyable, and I'll go ahead and start answering some questions.
All right, Kristin, it looks like the next question is from Eli. It says, how long of a break in between trips do you usually get?
Oh, that's a great question. So it really depends on the season. So our season kind of starts, well, pretty much right about now, or around April, and then it goes until, say, November. And so I think it was last year, I had maybe like 2 or 3 days in between each trip. So I was like gone for 2 weeks and then back for a couple days, and then gone for 2 weeks and then back for a couple days, and then gone for a month. So it kind of gets really busy, but it's fun. And then usually during the winter is pretty calm. Thank you.
All right. The next question, it says, what was your favorite location to work at?
Ooh, it's a tough one. I mean, I would say the most unique would definitely be up in the Arctic. I've been up there both during August as well as November, and just like seeing like the northern lights and just kind of being up there in this, sometimes in the sea ice, and seeing like a polar bear and walruses, and I don't know, it's really unique. So I would have to say that's probably my favorite location to work at.
The next question, how many bodies of water have you been in?
I would probably just have to say 2. It depends how you categorize your oceans, you know, if it's one ocean or a whole bunch of different oceans, but mostly just the Pacific and the Arctic Ocean.
And then, of course, Crater Lake.
And Crater Lake, oh, yes.
Well, if you're going to talk about all of those, yes.
Yes, definitely.
And Florida, and okay.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. The next question, what's the best way to get contacts into good internships and follow that into a career?
Oh, great question. So on this page, I have the additional resources for like the UNOL's website, which you can browse, and they have different internships available. Oregon Sea Grant is a very good resource as well. It has a lot of good pathways and career intern stuff. And then actually on my personal website, thelifeaquatic.com, I get this question a lot. So I actually created my own website so that I could list a whole bunch of resources for internships and career paths. So feel free to check that out, or contact me directly. And yeah, definitely just research.
All right, Emma has a question. It says, how much of your work is on boat and how much is on the land?
Yeah, so I would say it's about, I mean, I sail about 4 months out of the year, and so about 8 months of it is on land.
Okay, let's see. What is the longest time you have been on a boat? From Tracy.
Oh, thanks, Tracy. 30 days has been my longest time on a boat, and I've done that probably about 3 or 4 times now.
Hannah wants to know how many years you were at the university.
4, or I guess this question's probably how long did I study there?
I believe so.
Was 4 years to get my bachelor's degree.
Oh, here's a good question. In light of everything that's going on with the COVID, are there still trips going on, or are they all canceled now?
That's a great question. Yeah, so everything is definitely, it's still like an evolving situation, and you know, there's a lot of uncertainties, but we're getting a lot of good leadership. And right now, we're kind of looking to have everything, all the cruises kind of postponed until July 1st. This is definitely subject to change. We might do a couple cruises, local cruises before or after, and it, you know, it's ever evolving.
Carter wants to know, when traveling, are you able to get off the ship, or do you have to stay on it?
Oh, that's also a good question. So it really depends on the trip. there's been a couple trips where we've taken the ship down to San Francisco, loaded up all the equipment and scientists there, and then kind of go offshore and then back. And so during that time, we can get off the ship, but there's definitely been a couple of those 30-day long hauls. Like there was one off the coast of Mazatlan, Mexico. So we started in Oregon, went down to California, got off the ship in Mazatlan, and that was a 30-day trip, as well as the ones up in the Arctic. You're on it for 30 days. So no stopping by the grocery store, no, oops, I forgot the shampoo. You're on the ship.
And Jaden wants to know, what type of math classes do you need to take in order to be a marine technician?
That's a great question. A lot of people, there's some people that have, degrees in engineering or computer science. My degree was in biology, so I ended up going up until, I think it was like integral calculus, but I have not yet used my integral calculus for my current job. So actually there's, you can be a marine technician. There's a lot of people that take folks who have associate's degrees. So just go through like a 2-year community college program and become a marine technician.
So here's somebody who wants to know how much money you can make a year doing this job.
So this really much depends on the organization and institution. I think my starting salary was about $50,000 a year, but we have a really good deal where we get seat time as well. So this last year I made closer to about $80,000 a year.
And a couple of people want to know what your favorite marine animal is.
Oh, that's easy. Actually, hold on. I still have my video on, right? All right. Can you guys see the peacock mantis shrimp? His name's Manny. I got him a while ago. Yeah, definitely the peacock mantis shrimp.
All right. And then the last question that we have time for is from Lonnie, who wants to know if people have gone overboard.
Luckily, I'm knock on wood, because we're all sailors and superstitious. The 3 years that I've been out at sea, no one's gone overboard. We take safety very seriously. And we always tell scientists and at the beginning of the cruise, even if we don't get any science done that trip, as long as everyone stays on board and stays safe, that's a good trip.
But you do practice man overboard drills whenever we lose hard hats and other equipment overboard, don't you?
Sure do. Yeah, we practice it all the time.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kristin. And thanks everybody for your great questions. And we are going to move on to our next presenter now, who is Amanda Gladics. And she is a fisheries extension agent with Oregon Sea Grant. And she's going to talk about her job and how she got where she is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. And thanks for all the great questions you guys had for Kristin. She has a really cool job. I think I'm jealous, actually. Can I just get a quick thumbs up from Tracy that you guys can hear me okay? Okay, awesome. All right, so my job is a fisheries extension agent, which is like, what does that mean? Similar to a marine technician, it's kind of this title I'd never heard of before, actually probably while I was in university or even in my master's degree potentially. So fisheries extension agents essentially sit at the interface between science and the university and community members who need that information. So we might do our own research, or we might work with researchers on campus and then figure out how that information applies to the people that live on the coast or work in a particular industry. And so because I have a fisheries focus, primarily, who I work with are fishermen. But that's not entirely all that I do. So my work sort of fits in 2 buckets. So the first is as an educator for both community members and the fishing industry. So I just have here a couple of photos that sort of emblem or like sort of symbolize the projects that I work on. So one of them is a tour that I organize for elected officials and community leaders that helps them understand the fishing industry better up here on the North Coast in Astoria. We usually do like a behind the scenes tour of a seafood processing facility, talk with fishermen and just learn more about what challenges that industry is facing each year. A second project that I work on is more focused on education for the industry themselves. And so, like Kristin was talking about, safety is a really critical piece of being able to go to sea and make sure you come home. And we noticed through some research from faculty members on campus at OSU that there was a need for specialized first aid training for fishermen. And so I've been working with collaborators on campus to bring that training out to our communities and get fishermen trained in like a wilderness style first aid so that they will have the skills and resources they need to deal with situations that come up at sea because they're several hours away from help potentially. And then another education project I work on is called Shop at the Dock. And what that is a guided tour of fishing docks and helping people understand what fish we catch here, what seafood is available, what time of year, and how they can access locally caught fish. So either buying it directly from a fisherman, we guide people through that process, or going to some of the local retail markets that specialize in our local seafood. Another area that I work on and sort of brought with me into this position is working on conflicts between fisheries and wildlife species like whales and seabirds. So one of the projects I've been working on for a couple years in this position is trying to reduce the risk of whales getting tangled up in fishing gear, primarily crab gear here on the West Coast. So I've worked to facilitate a collaborative working group with fishermen, seafood or fisheries managers, marine mammal scientists, environmental advocates, and sort of a broad range of people that are interested in this issue to try to develop ideas for ways to reduce the risk. And one of the things that came out of that was a project to try to better understand where the whales are off our coastline so that we can figure out ways to move fishing gear away from where the whales are and make more targeted management approaches that will have less of an economic impact on the fleet. And then another project that I've been involved with for many years, my background is actually in seabirds, strangely enough. And so I've been working on helping fishermen both in longline fisheries, which is a style of fishing where it's one long rope with lots of hooks on it. And also in trawl fisheries, which is when fishermen are catching fish with a net, helping them avoid catching albatrosses. So that's just a couple of sort of an overview of the types of things I work on. It's a mix of research as well as outreach and education. Okay, so this is the part of the presentation where you get to choose your own adventure. So I wasn't sure what you guys would be interested in hearing about. So you've got some options. Do you want to hear more about that involving citizen scientists in understanding where whales are off the Oregon coast, learn a little bit more about how I got here, sort of my adventures in fieldwork and travel to get to where I'm at right now, or just learn a little bit more about Oregon fisheries with some fish trivia. So there should be a poll that just popped up, so put in your vote and we'll pull up the option that has the most appeal. All right, so Kate, how does it look? Have people cast their votes?
Almost. We have 2 more people we're hoping are going to vote. And I must say they're very close. There's actually a tie right now. So if you haven't voted, this is the time. Make your vote count.
Sway it one way or another.
No. All right, I'm going to end the poll and you can see what it says.
Oh. Oh, it's a tie.
So now you have to decide.
Oh man, you guys. Boy, okay. Well, since this is a career webinar, I think I'm going to pick sort of the how I got here. And maybe we can revisit the whale stuff on a future educational webinar. Can everyone see my screen now? The adventures in seabird science?
Yes.
Okay, so I, just like Kristin, I did not have a straight path to where I am now. And if you looked at where I started, you really wouldn't think I would be doing anything with fish. So this is me and my little brother with the first fish that I ever caught that I literally would not touch. I was so like squeamish and freaked out by the whole situation. But I got interested in field biology kind of in the middle of my undergraduate career. I took several years off in the middle of doing my undergraduate degree and spent a summer working out in West Texas on a species reintroduction project with falcons, which was awesome and also very sunny. And that at the same time I was working on environmental education. And so you can see I've got kind of these two competing or parallel sets of interests, one kind of on the science side, one on the education side. So after that field job in West Texas, I came out to Oregon, landed in Newport doing an AmeriCorps position with the Oregon Coast National Wildlife Refuge. And this is me out on the tide flats teaching kids about what shorebirds eat, which was not super glamorous, but it was a really fun job. But that kind of led into being more interested in the marine and coastal environment and the ecology of seabirds specifically. And so I spent kind of the next 9 years in some capacity working on seabird ecology. But I wasn't just in it. So this photos are me doing some seabird nesting surveys with the Oregon Coast National Wildlife Refuge. This is near Tillamook Head. That's Terrible Tilly, the lighthouse. And then in the lower corner is actually me working on collecting data for my graduate work, looking at the diets of common murres at Yaquina Head. For those of you who are in Oregon, you might know those places. But seabirds nest in really cool places and can take you really interesting directions, especially as you think about animals that live on islands and travel, across large ocean basins. And so I got the chance to go down to South America and work on a project on Robinson Crusoe Island, which you wouldn't think is a real place, but it is. And so I was looking at the impacts of cattle grazing on a couple of nesting colonies of pink-footed shearwaters. And it was a great opportunity to work on a really applied project. And then sort of right after my graduate degree, I wanted to go have another adventure. So I went up to Alaska and worked a summer on a seabird colony in the eastern Aleutian Islands. So the little map in the corner shows where that red marker is where my island was. It was a little uninhabited island called Iktak. And I worked with puffins and storm petrels and all sorts of different seabirds. And it was really fun. It's also taken me to the middle of the Pacific Ocean to work on albatross tracking studies on Midway Atoll, which is a low-lying coral reef island, literally in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It's home to almost 1 million albatrosses, so it was a really incredible experience. And it's also taken me to some adventures a little closer to home. So I mentioned that I work on helping fishermen avoid catching albatrosses. And this was really where I started getting very interested in working with fishermen and finding solutions to problems that they were having that would benefit both the environment and the people involved. So this was off the coast of Northern California, sort of near Fort Bragg, with a fishing vessel longlining. And that was kind of my real experience collaborating with fishermen on a research project, which was really great. And I learned a couple really critical lessons there that I pretty much bring into every day of my work now, which is meeting fishermen where they are. So going to them, working with them, understanding that I'm not the only thing they're thinking about, and whatever environmental issue that I'm working on probably isn't top of mind for them. They're trying to run a business and keep their families fed and their crew working. But that they have a lot to tell us. So everyone has expertise. So I might understand how to design a research project and the biology of birds, but they understand how their fishing operation works, what constraints they have, what opportunities they have. And I learned a lot about how to sort of talk across different communities. So different cultures have different ways of talking about things and thinking about things. And even in the same physical location, we have lots of subcultures, and fishing is definitely one of those. And so I learned a lot about how to exchange information more effectively. And that really brought me to where I am now, which is this person sort of sitting at the interface, still working a little bit on seabirds, but working on a lot of different projects too. So I think I'll stop there, and it looks like you've got some questions for me. Let's see, I'm not sure where we started with questions for me. Tracy, can you help me?
Yeah, let me see. I think, let's see. Okay, so it looks like, do you do CPR?
Oh yeah, okay, that's a great question. So in that first aid training for fishermen, we do provide CPR training. Fishermen are actually required to have a current CPR certification, and so we include that in our training. I actually don't lead the training. I help connect fishermen with it and bring the instructors in. But our instructors are, they have gone through a wilderness first responder course and CPR instructor training as well.
So let's see, there is, wow, we have a lot coming in now. So I'm like, oh, let's see. So there's a question here about both whales and whale entanglement, about what kind of whales and how many are potentially affected or that you've been working on with the fishermen.
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's definitely a small number, but like all large, long creatures with very long lifespans, even a small amount of mortality or deaths of adults in the population can have a really big impact. So on the west coast of the US, the whale entanglement numbers were quite low for a very long time. And then right around 2015, 2016, we saw this jump in the number of entanglements that were reported. Now, there's not a lot that have been seen with Oregon gear on them, but there are a lot of entanglements where we don't know what the gear is. About half of them, we can't even figure out what fishery it came from. So the years where it was the highest, it was like 40 to 50 entanglements that were reported on the West Coast over the whole year. It's been lower in recent years. So it does look like some of the measures that the fisheries have been taking are working, or that there have been changes in the marine environment that have reduced that level. Good question.
All right, Lauren wants to know what your favorite seabird is.
Oh, it's so hard. I love them all. It's really hard. I have a really sweet spot for storm petrels, especially Leach's storm petrels, and it's for a silly reason. They just smell really good to me. They have this kind of musty, sort of very distinctive smell, and I just associate it with good memories of working on some beautiful colonies off the southern Oregon coast. So, but I mean, albatrosses are just incredible. They just are so, they range so widely, and you think about how many miles they've traveled over the course of their life. They can live, you know, there's one on Midway that's still nesting and raising chicks that's over 66 years old. So yeah, hard to decide.
So Jaden did have a question about what species of albatross are found on Midway.
Oh, that's a great question. So we have 3 species in the North Pacific. The most common is Laysan albatross, and they are the ones that are most common on Midway as well. So it's those white ones in that picture. There are also black-footed albatrosses, and actually those are the ones we see most off of our coast, and that we have the kind of concerns around them interacting with fisheries off the west coast. And then we have one species that nests in Japan, but is found off of our coast and then up in Alaska as well, and that's called the short-tailed albatross. And that is the one that is listed as an endangered species and motivates a lot of the conservation efforts around reducing interactions with fisheries.
Okay, we have another question about how is the quarantine affecting your work?
Yeah, it's interesting to try to do education with community members when you can't meet with people or travel. So thankfully, I didn't have any research field work planned for this spring. I had a big project last year working with the Pacific whiting or hake fishery, where I was sending researchers out on the boats. And so I'm really thankful that was last year and not this year. I'm doing a lot of Zoom and video calls and recording like video versions of my Shop at the Dock program. So just trying to adapt and change the way that I reach people.
So Lonnie wants to know if you encounter any sharks in your work.
Not really. Yeah, not really.
Although if you tune in next, or in a couple of weeks, our next CSI will have a shark researcher. So I'm just going to do a plug for that. Lauren wants to know if you've ever gone on a trip with Kristin, our previous presenter.
Not yet, but I hope to at some point. I used to do a little more at sea field work. So I would go out on a research cruise in June each year and do the seabird observations while other people were collecting other data. I don't think Kristin was on that one.
No, I wasn't, unfortunately, but we should plan a trip soon.
We should. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
Let's see, Hannah has a question. I'm not sure you'll be able to answer this one, but wants to know how much pressure comes out of a whale blowhole.
Whoa, I have no idea. Boy, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the steam from the blow can go, 10, 15, 20 feet up in the air, depending on the species. So I'm sure that's quite a lot of pressure, but I don't know how much it would be.
Although I will put in another plug.
What's that?
I was going to say, we're going to have a marine mammal researcher that will be joining us in a future CSI. So we will check back for that.
Cool.
All right. I think we've been able to answer most of the questions here. There were an awful lot of them. Thank you, everyone, for typing in your questions. So once again, thank you to all of our presenters today. You will be receiving a very brief survey. If you would please answer the survey questions when they come to you, just to provide some feedback. And Lindsay, can you share your screen again to show them the upcoming CSI opportunities? So as I mentioned, our next one is going to be on April 29th, so 2 weeks from today at the same time. And that one will be with a plankton researcher and a shark researcher. So if you're interested in learning more about what's going on with the plankton lab at Hatfield and how they collect information on the little teeny tiny things in the ocean, as well as learning from one of the researchers that focuses on sharks, then I would suggest you come back and join us for that on Wednesday, April 29th at 4 o'clock. Thank you so much to all the presenters, and thank you for joining us, and have a good evening. Goodbye.